Hello everybody out there in the music community, this is Michael Soldier 777 here. I'm going to show you a video regarding a couple of Christian hard rock or metal bands or albums in my collection, a couple of albums. They remind me of another album in hard rock and metal in the mainstream music area. So the mainstream album I want to talk about is Motley Crue Shout Devil. Now as you may know, that came out in September 1983. And it was a controversial album at the time. I don't have the album in my collection. I don't have any Motley Crue in my collection. But I want to reference a point where when I first started getting into Christian hard rock and metal back then, I was also intrigued by the mainstream music back then at the time as well. Now, I was living in Grand Falls at the time in 85, 86, and I had a cousin or third cousin that was living in Lewisport, which was about half hour, 45 minutes away. And he had a lot of mainstream secular hard rock metal bands in cassette tapes in his collection. So one of those bands was Motley Crue, and he had as you may know, the Motley Crue albums at that time in 86, 85, 86, which is Too Fast for Love, Shout Devil, and Theater Pain. I want to reference the album Shout Devil. So I would borrow a cassette off him, and I'd be staying at my grandmother's place in Lewisport. And so I would board a cassette and play it right low on stereo. I'm not sure my own stereo I had or I used from my grandmother. Anyway, I turned it down right low when I play a cassette at night, the whole cassette. And the cassette I had the 4 picture of the band on the front of the cassette. It didn't have a pentagram, but it had 4 pictures of the band on the cassette. And I found out years later, around 89, 90, that there was a different version of the album that had a pentagram in the front there from a friend of mine I knew from university. He had the gatefold album with I think he had a gatefold album, I can't remember. Anyway, it was a pentagram in the front. So I didn't realize until about, this would have been 85, 86. So I didn't realize about 4 or 5 years, 3, 4 years later, that there was the album itself, the vinyl, had the pentagram in the front. So that's when I found out. Anyway, so I want to reference a couple of Christian bands to sort of remind me of Motley Crue Shout Devil, or Motley Crue Shout Devil remind me of those albums. And back in the day, the hard rock bands I had in my collection were mostly in 85, 86. When I first get into Christian hard rock and metal and rock in general, was Jerusalem in Magic Service, Rez, Hostage Bootleg, In Between Heaven and Hell, and Jerusalem, Stryper, Young Black Tech, and Soldiers. So this predates, I believe, this predates the release of 12 Devil. So the 2 albums on a reference that remind me of Motley Crue Shout Devil, or vice versa, will be Daniel Band, Run from Darkness, where the album's black, like Motley Crue Shout Devil, and sort of had like the pictures from Motley Crue from the band sort of had the kind of that serious look, kind of mean business. Well, this band kind of mean business with a look on this as well, and like Motley Crue, this band sort of got some street clothes on her. A little bit of leather, not much, but sort of got that very they mean business look to it, that kind of thing that the band has on the picture. And I bought a cassette off of my next door neighbor back then, the cassette tape, and used to listen to bore from quite frequently. Never had a copy of my own collection until a couple years later. A buddy of mine had a vinyl he gave me, and I lost that vinyl. Now I got this one. It was tape out the vinyl and cassette, and listen to the cassette as well as the vinyl. So that was kind of cool. So this kind of reminds me of the look of the artwork, a little bit of Motley Crue Shout Devil, where it's got a big old pentagram on the front there. The band means business. This band means business. Without the instrumentals and the intro on the album, it's got 9 songs. This one's got 9 songs. Both are heavy hard rock. Daniel Band is not the same kind of music as Motley Crue, as you may know, because Daniel Band has more got a Canadian hard rock sound to them, like Rush, Triumph, Helix. They got that kind of a sound to it. I found this album. What else can I say? Got the anti-666, and type of run from the darkness. In other words, to avoid evil, cling to what's good. Think of, as I'm like saying to, cling to what's right and holy. Whereas Motley Crue's embracing rebellion, Satanism, and sex. They're embracing that. So there you have it. So that's one that reminds me of Motley Crue. The next one that reminds me of Motley Crue is Stryper, 12 the Devil. And I got both versions, the pentagram and censor version, or sorry, the angel artwork in the censor version. And like Motley Crue, I guess, where I think back then the pentagram was banned on certain formats of Shout the Devil, and he decided to have a picture of the band on a cassette tape that went on board from my cousin, the third cousin. So like Motley Crue, Stryper originally had the angel artwork with the pentagram, like Motley Crue has on theirs, but they decide to on other releases stop the press and have the censor version on their cassettes and CDs and vinyl. There you have it. And like Motley Crue, this is called Shout at the Devil, and 12th Devil, and Motley Crue is called Shout Devil. This is called 12th Devil, and Motley Crue has instrumental or narration at the beginning of the album. This has got the Abyss, which is instrumental at the beginning of the album. Also, like the Motley Crue, this one's got a picture of the band in the back, which is a full size of the back of the album. On Motley Crue, got the band photo at not the full size of it, but sort of takes up a third or half of the back of the album with the song titles and the credits at the back. Whereas on the opposite of Motley Crue, on the inside, Motley Crue's picture is for the band members takes up the full all of the inside gatefold. Whereas this one don't take up the full size of the gatefold of the band picks, but it has them in triangles intertwined with the lyrics on the gatefold of the album. So there you have it. So Motley Crue's a full size of picture of the band on the inside, whereas this is not. But on the back, it's a full size on the back of the Stryper album, but it's not on the back of the Shout Devil album from Motley Crue. There you have it. And as you may know, 12 the Devil is about where the devil and the Antichrist and those that disobey God will be cast in the lake of fire, unfortunately, in the future, in the end times. In Revelation 20:10, in the future, it'll be cast in the lake of fire with Satan, the false prophet, and the Antichrist, the false Trinity, which is what the verse says in small print down below here, 12th Devil. There you have it. So, anyway, folks, that's my video of some albums remind me of other albums, Christian in the mainstream. If you want to show a video similar to what I just showing you, let me know in the comments below. Or maybe you can do your own video of albums that remind you of other albums. It doesn't have to be like Christian and mainstream. Could be a couple Christian albums, or could be a couple of mainstream albums. Doesn't matter. I just decided to do it this way. My presentation about albums that remind you of other albums, or some kind of connection of albums in some way, shape, or form. Anyway, folks, all the best. Have a great day. Bye now.